Welcome back to The Short Game, show about short video games, games that respect your time. I am Reagan Kelly, and I am joined this week by all of my coolest co-hosts.
Laura Nash.
Nate Heininger. And the coolest co-host, Shane Kelly.
Debatable, and it's that time of year again.
We did it.
It's the time of year when we do Game of the Year.
Wow.
I always really look forward to this, partly because it's just fun to look back at some of the games that we played and that we continue to stan and get excited about them all over again. Also, it's exciting to think about, we're coming into a new year. I think every single podcast and YouTube video and whatever that rounds up games of the year always begins with, wow, last year we thought it was going to be, we thought it was a really good year for games. And then we thought this year was not going to be as good, but then it was an incredible year for games. What do you know? And all of that is true again. And so we've spent some time rounding up our picks. For folks who may not have joined us for a Game of the Year episode before, we spend a little time before the episode just going back over all the games that we played for the show or that were short gamey for the year. And we come up with some. We don't do a numbered list or anything like that. We think that's, we leave the ranked lists to the listicle developers of the world. We just have a game of the year, and then we have a bunch of other awards, some of them recurring, and some of them we have to invent new awards just to specifically celebrate particular games. And we don't keep you hanging. We're going to start with Game of the Year and then talk about all of the other stuff that we think also deserves some celebration, superlative award, whatever it might be. Some of these are ones that we've given many times, and others might be new.
Before we get into it, I happen to pay a little bit more than my usual level of zero attention to the Game Awards this year.
Oh, no.
And I was somewhat struck by just how nice the actual trophy looks for that. If you've not seen the Game Awards actual trophy, it's this lovely polygonal looking angel kind of rising up. Very, very cool little statuette. And I just would like to know, if we were awarding actual statuettes, what would they look like?
Because currently we're awarding social media squares,
Yeah.
which we've made in the past, which is I think are quite nice, but I also made them. So,
Yeah.
however, if they were actual,
We used to put them on
awards,
Twitter. Now they're on places that have a much smaller audience.
I was going to
Correct.
say, and what a great time to be leaning into social media right now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I would say my first thought is a joystick location award, but they always look too phallic. So I would prefer not to give a joystick award. And plus, nothing we play involves a joystick. So
Yeah, things always people always go back to the Atari 2600 joystick for imagery when they want to represent video game, and that is the most ludicrous. It gets more ludicrous every year as gamers the world over have been born, played games, and died without ever even seen an Atari 2600 in person. Ancient history.
I got it. I figured it out. We
What is
give
it?
them a custom watch, like a stopwatch that
Mm.
only has hours that go from 1 to 12 hours, and then it stops at the top. It stops at 12
Yes.
hours, and that's it.
Mhm. I was gonna
Um,
think, I was thinking gold watch as well, but I had the feeling of retirement, and I didn't necessarily want to go there. But I think a stopwatch. That's
like a
the one.
stopwatch, and then if it goes over 12 hours, it just stops working.
We bought like 12 Nintendo Alarmos and we just painted them with our colors and we're handing those
Mhm.
things out.
A hacked alarmo that only plays our podcast when it's time to wake up.
Oh God.
Oh, no.
I as a bit one time I added an episode of the podcast to a group shared playlist and we had it like it was like a dance party sort of thing and a lot of music going and then just right in the middle of it, welcome back to the short game, Reagan, your voice just comes blasting through the speakers. It was funny
I'm
to
so
me.
glad to
I
distress
guess.
and annoy your friends.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, awarding these beautiful imaginary golden stopwatches, we're going to begin with our game of the year. My
Wow.
favorite thing I played this year.
Here it is, folks.
And here it is, folks. I don't think it'll be that big of a surprise for some of our listeners. 1000 Times Resist.
Yeah.
1000 Times Resist is
Woo!
an all-time narrative banger. It is one of the best stories I have seen in a video game. Incredible characters, wonderful performances. But something I was thinking about today, and I apologize for basically stealing this from the Game of the Year video by YouTuber Jacob Geller, but a point that he was making in it that really stuck with me today when I was watching his video, and he awarded this pretty highly as well, although not his top spot, was how this game is a game that is, you know, indie games more than most games try to be about something. We love that. This game is not about one thing, it is about so many things, and yet it manages to be about them with its whole heart, right? With its whole self. It's a game about aliens and murder and the end of the world and pandemics and things like that, but it's also a game about family and immigration and uh,
Childhood.
childhood and growing up and loss and
Being the new kid in school.
yeah,
There's
and
so much.
pigeons and everything. It's about so many things, and it is not about any one of them. It is about all of them, and it is about those things so much, if that makes sense. This is a game that made me cry, and it is a game that made me fist pump in the air, and it is 100% my favorite thing that I have played this year, and it had to go at the top of the list for me.
Yeah, for me, it wasn't particularly close when we review the games that we played this year, and I said it on the episode, and I feel it even more now with some distance because I had finished it like 5 hours before we recorded that episode, and so it was all very, very top of mind. And now that we have some distance away, I feel even more that this is one of my favorite games of all time. And rarely, we play a lot of games, and just the sort of position I am in with my friends, I'm usually people ask like, what are you playing? What game should I play, etc. It's been a while since I've been like reaching out to people like, hey, you got to play this game, like you got to check this out.
Yeah.
You probably haven't heard about it just yet, but like go play that. I've been talking to everyone I possibly can about this, and
Mhm.
trying to get more people to play it. And yeah, I just absolutely love it.
And I can't wait for more people to play this, because then I'll have more people to talk about it with.
Yeah.
I am
It's
one of those people. When you play the game, it was just I've been in and out this year. It's been a really tough year for my family. I've
yeah.
had a lot of stuff to deal with outside of the podcast, and thank you all for continuing. I honestly thought I had this in my head as a 20-hour game. So I thought there's no way this will be everyone loves this. This is everyone's favorite game of the year. But we're not going to award it game of the year because it's 20 hours. It's not. I don't know where I got this. So I thought I've actually set aside 2 days in January after I get back from my family. I've got 2 extra days of work where my husband's working that I was just planning on playing this game, and I was like, "I'll play it in
Mhm.
January." I'm so excited to play it in January, but it's even more exciting now that it's our game of the year.
Yeah.
Laura, I'm so excited to talk about this game with you,
Yeah.
because you, maybe more than any of us, I feel like you're
Yeah.
going to have things to say about this game. We've talked offline, like this is a game that comes from a team that has like weird theater experience as a lot of
It's a
and
devised
performance
background, and I
experiences
took
there. Yeah.
multiple devised classes, so I'm
Yeah.
also really excited about it from a
Eager to see
hidden
where that,
development
feeds into
perspective.
it for you. And also just like you're more of a film nerd than any of the three of us
Yes.
I think. And this is a game that comes deeply from a film perspective for a lot of it, like film acting and directing and like really composed shots. This is a game that is about taking a group of really interesting and mostly likable characters through a series of just absolute banger fucking scenes. Like,
Yeah.
it is a game about
Nonstop.
watching and playing through the most banger fucking scenes you've ever
Yeah.
seen.
This
It's
game is bang
so
bang fire.
This is like
It
when
is
I
bang bang fire.
I knew I was gonna love Hades. I waited till I have time because I thought it was uncovered. I just made the mistake of this is actually a short game. So I
Well, I mean,
what
you could, it's a reasonable take because you might have been coming from me who it did take almost 20 hours to complete this
Yeah.
game because
Yeah.
I'm bad at these
For the
things.
listeners
So
out there, we did have to bend our rules a little bit here because, How Long to Beat
Yeah.
has 1,000 times resist as 11 and a half hours for like main story and like 12 or 11 hours for main story and like 12 and a half for like main story plus extras. And that's very true to my experience. I think I clocked about 12 hours on this game, and that is longer than our stated, cap. I don't care. This is my game of the year regardless.
we're going to
And
jail.
But
yeah, and it,
for
This
me,
but
the
felt
person
for
who
for people
had to
like it
save
was
this,
longer. This
yeah.
game has the amount of storytelling that like sometimes 20, like 50, 100-hour games don't, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's interesting to me the way you were calling it, like kind of film like. The last couple of years we've really featured film like stuff, and
Mhm.
especially with wasn't last year's Immortality?
2 years ago. But
That's two
last year
years
was
ago.
what is
Slay the
time?
Princess. So
That's less film-like, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
Um,
Immortality was people list the movies in Immortality on Letterboxd, so
mhm.
I think it still stands.
I love the intersection of film and games. I mean, and obviously this has other intersections as well. Thousand X Resist has a lot of influence from genres like the walking sim and the visual novel are present as well. But primarily this is a story delivery mechanism, but it brings its gaminess along with it. It's anyway. I got to stop talking about this game, or we'll be here all night. We've done,
Yeah.
we've
Got to keep
talked
it
enough
moving.
about this game.
But for people who want a short game, a
Yes.
short
Truly
game,
short.
what is our rules lawyer short game of the year?
Yes. So we acknowledge that we were bending the rules a little bit to make 1,000 times resist our game of the year. It certainly deserves it, but it is also not as short as our stated rules for this podcast. So i- in some sense, some of you are probably yelling into your microphones, "What's the point of having a short game podcast where they say they're going to cover 10-hour or less games and they give game of the year to something that's longer than 10 hours? Who are these people?" And for you, listeners who are yelling, we have an alternate pick.
Thank goodness you're here.
Yes, that's what we say to all of our most angry listeners. Thank goodness you're here.
thank goodness you're here.
Oh my god, this game, guys. What the hell was this thing?
Mhm. This might be the opposite of 1,000 besides the length.
Just a
The
burst of
length
joy.
obviously, but this
It's
might be the exact opposite of 1,000 times resist. Take a deep, like metaphorical, well-written, incredible complex experience that is 1,000 times resist and take one of the dumbest 2.5 hours you can possibly spend in your entire life.
Absolutely.
And that is thank goodness you're here. And
Just
I went back and forth from like hating this game and loving it so much, and the hatred is only from that hatred of when someone tells you a horrible joke that you're super sad, mad at yourself for laughing at. And
yes.
it's just
This was an
what an
ingeniously stupid game. It's
The good
just
the
peak
good thing
smart
about
dumb.
doing a podcast about this game is there is no amount of description from podcast world that is going to
yeah.
prepare you to play
Mm-mm.
thank goodness you're here. It is just pure off the rails ridiculousness from the beginning to the end. And if you have any love in your heart for silliness or British comedy, then I
Instabuy.
mean you just got to do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have to say, like, on some level, like, I'm a cold-hearted bastard, and I saw this game was going to be like a, very, very British comedy game, and on some level, I was like, am I really going to enjoy this? Listener, don't concern yourself with that. I don't think it's possible to play this game and not laugh. And like a lot. Like it, even if you think like, that may not be my cup of tea. Like, yes, it is. I bet you it is.
If you say things like "not my cup of tea," this is your cup
Not
of
my cup of tea.
You want to slap 3 consecutive trash bags and then have a rat chorus pop out and sing a song? Yes, you do. Play this game, it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I
what
mean,
people are Googling. That's the SEO for this.
That's the SEO hit. It's not
this
Matt
game is.
Berry.
We struggled to describe this on the show about it too, because this is one of those things where any joke you try to explain is just going to sound stupid, and they are some, again, this is the dumbest thing I think that's ever been made, but it works. It
Yep.
10
works.
out of 10 stupidity.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
works. It works
Dearly
more
beloved.
than I care to even admit how much this game works.
And we have another rules lawyer pick for people who we can't properly choose a something that's too long and
Consider
maybe
these
maybe disqualify this.
strongly endorsed runners up to
Right,
our first
yes.
pick.
So we have a new category that we are calling the 1,000 hour short game, because if we're breaking the rules, let's break them all the way.
Yeah.
Um, and
Fuck
our
it.
our choice, Nate, what do we have?
Well, of course, we have to talk about Balatro, a game that I think is going to outlive us all. That I think is taken the world by storm, especially after the mobile release,
Mhm.
and it is just killing time and killing people's minds around the world. I am still playing Balatro. It has been a constant companion of mine as I've traveled this year. I love this game. We cover roguelikes or whatever you want to call them through our exceptions, and this one I think has perfected the form of this sort of quick deck building roguelike. And yeah, I just absolutely love Bellagio.
Back in the first year that we started doing this, I remember Shane and I campaigned for threes winning, and someone said, "How long have you been playing threes?" It's like embarrassing amount of time.
Yeah.
Elatra's the same thing. I've gotten my boss addicted to it to the point that he was sending me links to mods. Um, uh, Multiple people have asked why I've haven't gotten my brother into it, and it's because I would like him to keep his job. Um, I He has a family. Balatro is amazing. I love cheating at cards I love being the casino, basically. It's like you get to
Mhm.
cheat.
Yeah. Well, it's very brilliant because in a lot of ways this game isn't doing much different than something like Slay the Spire, ding ding ding. It uses a ton of the same archetypes as that game does, and like the jokers are relics, and there's not a lot new there, but the simple fact of using poker and poker hands and this sort of language that everyone shares. I mean, most people know a deck of playing cards and what hands are. I think that has been one of the keys to make this game so successful and have that sort of mainstream push that we haven't seen any sort of deck building game, or deck building roguelike, again, whatever. This kind of blends genres here, but like none of these games have broken out in the way that Balatro has, not even close.
I loved that it stripped away all of the like trappings that this genre usually carries in terms of story and design.
Yeah.
The like it, even Slay the Spire, which is very story light for this kind of game, mostly people are looking at stuff like Slay the Spire and thinking like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we could pile on more. This is a really effective way to tell our story." And Balatro just said, "You know what? Cards is cards.
Mm.
We're gonna let you open a booster pack that has
Yeah.
like extra kings in it, and you're gonna have weird jokers, and you know what? There's other kinds of cards. We're just gonna have a it's as if a card shop exploded and has everything in it."
And yeah, that's part of why it's so genius, because I think there's a fair amount of people, especially in the sort of mainstream world of people who just sort of click into whatever's popular on the App Store or whatever. You see something like Slay the Spire or Monster Train or any of these games that are like roguelike deck building type things. It's often sort of high fantasy, heavy to get into. You have to learn not only what a deck builder and what a roguelike is, but you also have to learn their systems within this. Like, everyone kind of knows this language already. Try to make good poker hands, and then it teaches you how it gets weirder and gets weirder and gets weirder. Even the concept of jokers, like if you played poker forever, jokers can be whatever they're wild. They could be anything. Like, that's all shared language that we've always had in card games. And so you just had to kind of get people in the door, and then the game teaches you what to do. And the next thing you know, you haven't eaten for 3 days, and you're
Yeah.
racking up combos.
I mean, this has been a really big year for versions of poker because one of the big games in the board game community was the Gang, which is what if you made Texas Hold'em cooperative. So I think people are realizing that decks of cards don't have to have huge themes too. Well, the Gang has a heist theme, but Belatro's theme is casino. It's poker. Move on with
Laura,
your
I've
life.
not heard of this. I need to check this out.
Yes.
That sounds pretty
Um,
cool.
yeah.
I was actually going to push back a little bit on one thing you guys were saying. Like Nate, for example, was saying like, this has a lot in common with Slay the Spire, and I really feel like this is the first roguelike that has rejected the DNA of Slay the Spire. Like, so card-based rogues like deck building roguelikes, they all owe so much to Slay the Spire. And yes, of course, there's some commonalities there, but like this is the first one that since Slay the Spire that I feel like really sets out on its own. It's got such a different approach, like with Shane was saying with like the theming. It just completely rejects any semblance of story. There's no map screen here with nodes on it. There's no there's no like the currencies are like work entirely differently than they do in other games like that. There's so many differences, and it plays so differently. I don't know, like one of the things that is so exciting to me about Balatro and the fact that it was so successful is like it feels like it took clever ideas from those genres, but just like it's like someone told them, "Hey, here's what a deck building roguelike is." And they went off and built an entirely separate like evolutionary chain for this that like it's like a completely different derivation
Really
of
is a
the
rethinking
concept.
of
It's a
those
complete
concepts,
rethinking.
totally.
And that's what I really loved about it, because to be perfectly honest, I know I'm the weirdo. I've played Slay the Spire. I've played many other deck building roguelikes that we have covered on the show. And I've never become obsessed with any of them. Even Slay the Spire, which is an all-time classic, acknowledged as an incredible, great game. I didn't become absorbed in any of those games the way that I did with Balatro. And I think it's partly just that it's a different, fresh take on some of these ideas. And the other part is just like, this is a game that it's like just pure, give me the game, nothing but game here, man. It's just game. And everything jiggles so nice. And when the scores catch fire, you're like, hell yeah. Every time something happens in this game, I say, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I was ready to engage in this discussion with you, Reagan, and then you started talking about how everything jiggled so nice, and now I don't know where to take this. I see your point. I disagree still to some, but obviously this is so much of this is your own
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah. Balatro is probably played by all of you because it was by far the most downloaded game episode we had.
By
It's
a
gotten
lot.
nominated for Game of the Year award, and it's gotten a ton of attention. But what hasn't gotten attention that's making us really angry? Like, what is our
Yeah.
most underrated game? When everyone says
Absolutely.
Balatro, what are we saying in our
Hold on.
hearts?
I just want to throw a quick improv award here. Segue of the year
Segue
goes
of
to
the year.
Laura, pulling us out of that conversation and
Mhm.
moving us on to the next
You
one.
mentioned jiggling, and I was like, let's talk about the most underrated game.
When Indica came out, I thought that was going to be our game of the year. I
Mm.
was
Same.
sure of it for a
Yeah.
while.
Same.
Indica is just such an incredible narrative experience that stands out as one of the truly most unique games that we've played on this show. Certainly one of the most unique games of the year. Um,
Of any year.
of any year. If you missed that episode, go back and delve into it. But Indica is a incredible mix of you know unusual, surreal storytelling, an incredible level of visual and artistic brilliance that brings a photorealistic 3D art style, and then occasionally throws that out the window for strange 2D pixel sequences. Uh, it has a pretty unusual uh, gameplay that can be probably a little bit polarizing, but it's going to make you do things like carrying buckets of water repetitively and make that mean something in the
While the
game.
devil whispers in your ear.
And yeah, and there's things like that that religious element and the sort of emotional impact of the message of the game. There's a lot of weird, dark, psychological elements to this game that I found really resonated with me, and I think with the rest of us. And on top of that, it creates a really interesting, bizarre, alternate history setting that is totally unique to me. I never expected to see a game set in like 19th century Russia in a convent.
Yeah.
That's just not wasn't in my world of thought for video games. So I I still find it really bizarre that one of the best looking, one of the most interesting and unique games that has come out this year.
And
Um,
with incredible marketing. The trailer was
yes,
phenomenal.
absolutely. Great marketing. I thought this game was a must play, and we're here at the end of the year, and I just don't hear it that much in the conversation for
Mhm.
the game of the year discussions. So uh I will say once again to the universe through my podcast, if you like games that have a challenging, unconventional story and a like complex morality, and things that bring triple A graphics essentially to the indie space, um like this is a game that everyone should at least try and give a shot to.
Yeah, and games
um
that are about something, man, like, so
mhm.
many this is one of the things that indie games do so well, but you don't always get it. This is a game that has something it has something to say, and it goes all out to say it, man.
It has such a strong tonal control, including when you're doing really mundane tasks that can feel
Mhm,
both sacred and a little profane at the same time. It is
mm,
really, I have a really high pretension threshold. Sometimes there are these kinds of games that I'm very allergic to. This one hit the tone perfectly, where it was
mhm.
very inventive and experimental and uh, historical, and that mix worked for me and everyone else who I've heard who's played it. So if
Yeah.
you think you also might, you're hearing, it's kinda like before I played Kentucky Route Zero, I was really afraid I wasn't gonna like it because I kept hearing all the highfalutin stuff, and then I played it, it was like, "Nope, this slaps." I think Indica
Mhm.
slaps in addition to being about things and very artistic. So, if all of the, academia we're putting on it is scaring you, it's also really a good time. It's gonna be a challenging time, but I found it really, fulfilling and interesting. I didn't feel
Yeah,
like I was going to the art house and taking my medicine. I had a great
yeah.
time playing it.
I'll
And
also
of
add
course,
that this was one of my favorite might have been my absolute favorite episode to record and edit and put out there this year, because it's a game that's just there was so much to talk about. We had a
Yeah.
really good discussion on the episode about like the themes of the game and like what some of the more metaphorical elements of it meant. I had a wonderful time talking about 1000 times resist, in a similar way, but honestly, like the talk that we had after playing Indica, like also helped me like grok the game in a way that I hadn't prior, and it was a great time and a great discussion. and I was really glad that we had that chat and that it was recorded. And so if you are worried that you're going to play through this thing and get to the end and be like, well, this has been out for months and who do I have to talk about it with, and et cetera. Like, first of all, go listen to our episode about it. It's got a really long and I think really good spoiler break section to the episode. I loved it. I'm tooting my own horn here for some more, but like I really enjoyed having that conversation because we got into it.
Yeah.
And hey, come talk to us about it, man. I'll talk about this game all day.
And of course, hail Satan. Speaking of, I think we need to move on to our next award. Now, this might be our most cherished award. This might be, this is what we spend the time arguing and debating, because this is the one that matters the most.
The true Game of the Year award from our podcast.
Would you do us the honor of handing out this year's Dirtbag of the Year award?
The Dirtbag of the Year. I think we've been assigning a Dirtbag of the Year for longer than any of our other awards, other than the just having a Game of the Year. I think a Dirtbag of the Year goes back all the way to the first year of the podcast, if not certainly very close.
I know May and Night in the Woods got it.
Night in the Woods, I think, was when we started it.
Yeah.
And we've done it every year since.
Yes. And, many excellent Dirtbags have received the Dirtbag of the Year award. My favorite was when we gave the Dirtbag of the Year award a couple of years ago to the character of what was his name? It's escaping me.
Something like that.
Yeah,
the Dirtbag priest,
the person who played the actor who played Ambrosio.
Yeah, yes. Ambrosio. Thank you.
In Immortality,
and he of course personally accepted the award via Twitter and was thrilled. And so that was a great time. But this year's Dirtbag of the Year, honestly, who could it possibly go to other than the Clickold from Clickholding?
We barely discussed it this year because that guy's such a sicko.
just out there. Number one with a bullet as soon as we saw him on screen.
It was a game centered around someone being a dirtbag. It was put on a platter for us this year. The whole thing is this guy's a dirtbag. And now we're not here to kink shame. All right.
This is the only game that I have both publicly podcasted about and marked as private on Steam.
I mean, peek behind the curtain, folks. When Nate said we talk about this is normally one of the most competed awards. There's generally some consensus on Game of the Year, but we kind of go back and forth on stuff. And then Dirtbag is usually one of the spicier conversations because we think about everybody. We all have our favorites. There's games that we want to represent. Literally this year, there was no conversation. We just wrote Clickhold and moved on with our lives. It was so simple.
I can't believe
there was no contest.
This game, though, is getting more... This game is getting more recognition and awards during the Game of the Year, period, than Indica, which
we are
hilarious.
Very upset
which
about.
makes me furious.
It's also getting more attention than their other actually good game, which we, I believe, covered this year, El Paso Elsewhere.
No, that came out in 2023, but we did cover.
We covered it this year, but it came out last year. Yeah,
thank you.
Which also came out this year.
And there's a lot of other. We're going to be covering strange scaffolding games for quite a while as that Xavier Nelson and them just get more and more popularity and more funding, it seems, and continue to do awesome work.
Yeah, but we have covered 3 of their games this calendar year, 2 of which came out this year, which is
and they've announced some really fun looking games here coming up soon. But this one might be their legacy.
Yeah, they are really pushing the boundaries on what the public will accept.
This is a shitpost of a game, but they really made it, man. And I thought it was very interesting, and I'm glad that I made all of you play it, and then made you miserable by doing so.
You're the real dirtbag, Reagan.
Yeah. You know what? That's a good point. Reagan should be Dirtbag of the Year for really shoving this game down.
His kink is clicking. Your kink was making us play the game.
I mean, in essence, aren't I the Clickold? I'm the one making you click. So,
and click away we do for you,
Reagan. All about.
Yeah, Reagan's been making us click for fucking
I'm out
13
here.
years now or whatever.
Press the buttons, Nate. Oh, you press them so good.
Well,
Keep it up.
let's reduce the amount of clickholding discussion in the world. So I'd like to
Wonderful.
move on to the other kind of character-based award that we have now continued to award once each year. This one goes back to a beautiful, beautiful bald head that we all adored, Galerius, and the Galerius Award um,
We
is
should set up what that means.
yes.
The game that it comes from.
I was
The
trying to remember that
Forgotten.
the
I was also
Forgotten
having that problem.
City. Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Forgotten City.
Forgotten
Thank you.
I
City.
was
Thank you.
ironically I forgot the name,
I was
but
about to type
We
it in the
both did.
chat, but y'all just
in the Forgotten City,
You got
just
there.
post it. In the Forgotten City, you were aided by the friendly farmer Galerius, who showed up just when needed and proved to be incredibly helpful throughout the entire structure of the game. We've always awarded this to characters that help games just happen. So, who could we possibly award it to this year?
Yeah, crucially, the Galerius is supposed to be a character that is both important to the plot and also mechanically important to the functioning of the game. Galerius from the Forgotten City, he was a combination of both an important character and also kind of a shortcut system in that game that made the entire repeating time loop of the game possible, made the game function. Brilliant mechanic, and also a character unified into one very lovely little man. So we like to think about that Galerius and ways that we can see the Galerius in our lives.
it
Who was it this year, Laura?
Galeriuses are lovely. They are counterparts to Dirtbag of the Year, and unfortunately, this year video games gave us a series of more and more dirtbags, like the little guy the Joker who laughs at you in Balatro when you lose your hand, or everybody in Velvedick, full of dirtbags. Just lots of like not click holding level dirtbags, but pretty much tons of assholes in video games this year. So we are going to not award Galerius to anybody from a video game this year. And just
Mm-hmm.
this
Do
is an
better, gaming.
admonition to
Mm-hmm. Do
developers.
better.
We need some nice people in video games helping us, please. We'll settle for a bot. Last year we gave it to a light bulb. Like we don't need
I forgot about that.
like we don't need a beautiful, loving character. We just need something to help us. And you didn't help us this year, and I really needed it. So do better. Instead, we're gonna give this to a good human in the actual world, or actually in our Discord, our virtual world. We're gonna award Galerius to Jesse from our Discord for suggesting 1,000 times resist literally 7 times before we played the game.
Thank you, Jesse. You're an asset, and to the Discord, you're a great patron of the show. You're a great friend of the show, and
And we wouldn't
this
have
would be a
played the
very
game of the
different
year without you.
conversation if you hadn't literally I just did a search for Discord messages from Jesse, including the title of the game, 1,000 times resist, and I'm probably not even catching them all with my search, but it was every few days for for
Jesse might have
months.
also told us that it's not 1,000x resist. So
Yeah,
many tips.
I had
Thank you.
it in my brain as 10,000 X resist for many
Yeah.
months. But yes, thank you, Jesse. Obviously, our Discord is full of great people, great patrons, and many of them have been helpful Galeriuses to the show over the
Yes.
years, and this year specifically. There's many other people that we could name, but we had to pick one, and so thank you, Jesse, and not just for suggesting 1,000 X times resist.
But it's a convenient hook.
But you've been suggesting banger games for us and chit chatting with us on the Discord for a long time, and we see you and we appreciate you, and thank you. Your beautiful um, imaginary golden stopwatch is in the mail.
Wow. Wow. We did an extra layer of spray paint on the Alarmo for you.
Mm.
Uh, all right. We've got a new one this year that I think has legs, tiny little legs. And I think we're going to have this one for years,
Oh.
years to come. So we've talked about a genre of games on this show for quite a while. We've tried to figure out where the genre, where this name came from at one point. I think we grabbed it from some other show at some point, but we
Yeah,
talk
I
about.
did figure it out. I will tell you, but go
Did
ahead.
you? Okay. We've
Yes.
talked about the genre of the little guy who goes around. It's one of our favorite genres here on the show, and seems to be increasing in popularity. And so we thought we'd want to get ahead of that and make a new award called the Most Little Guy Who Goes Around Award. And this award will be awarded yearly to the most little guy who goes around.
Mhm.
Reagan, do you want to give us a little background on where this comes from?
Yes, I actually believe "little guy who goes around" as a phrase came from the Anime Sickos podcast, which is a great
Okay.
podcast about the 5 pillars of modern misery, anime gaming, posting 4 pillars, anime gaming, posting, and jobs. And they did extensive coverage of oh geez, what was the anime called with Boji, the
Ranking of Kings?
yes, thank you.
Ranking of
Ranking of
Kings.
Kings, which is a great anime about a little guy who goes around. And I 100% recommend that show, both the podcast and Ranking of Kings, which is like a S tier anime. But
Boji game when?
Boji Game when, man, wow, I would love to be that little guy going around. But it made me think about like how many things are about a little guy who goes around, and there's something special about playing a game about a little guy who goes around. So, what little
There
guy
really
going
is.
around was our little guy who goes around this year, Nate?
Well, and this one's going to be hard to top because this hits the definition in multiple ways.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, this year's most little guy who goes around is the yellow traveling salesman from the aforementioned Thank Goodness You're Here. We also have an alt for it, the shortest game character. So
Yes,
he's
he's
a
also very
multiple
short.
award winner.
My
Uh,
newt.
so this guy, he's a little guy and he goes around town. And in this game, the town is like a loop. So he's
Goes
literally
around and
go
around.
he's going around and around, and you're just looping around this town, causing mayhem and kind of solving problems at the same time. And little yellow traveling salesman, you are our most little guy who goes around this year. Congratulations.
It couldn't have gone to a littler guy who goes around.
Could not.
Um, Laura, what's next?
Next up is the best short game in a not short genre. So there are genres that when they come up, we run in the opposite direction. Um, things that say sandbox. I'm so unused to saying sandbox, I can't pronounce it. That's how
Maybe the
unused
first
I
time
am
it's
to
ever been
it.
uttered on this
First
program.
time.
We've
What is a
forgotten how to
sandbox
say
game?
it.
Oh, gritty.
What is open world? JRPGs. Um, there are just some genres that we know are.
I may have suggested. I think it might have been in our like honorable mentions, but last year we covered a farming game in Beyond the Green Moon, or Before the Green Moon, which I
Mhm.
still stand. By the way, that game got some updates and is better than ever, and is still absolutely criminally overlooked, underplayed. Absolutely incredible game and a short narrative game in a genre, the farming sim, that doesn't get short narrative games. So go back and listen to our episode on that or play it. It's a wonderful, wonderful game that just sadly got completely missed and completely slept on
Total
by
hidden gem for you cozy
Yeah.
gamers out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But this year, we had a short JRPG. And so we are
Wow.
giving the best short game in a not short genre to Velvedick also could have, as
Yes.
a game, been the Dirtbag of the year.
Yes, everyone in the game qualifies as Dirtbag of the Year, although there are some standouts. I loved
The
this
art
game.
style
I
alone, yeah.
absolutely I understand why Indica we selected as most underrated game, and when you think about type of game and budget and impact and everything,
Mhm.
sure, of course, Indica. But I have been personally insulted and frustrated at the complete I think it's a cover up at this point. I think there's some sort of
Mhm.
conspiracy going on. The fact that basically no one knows about this game and it's not being talked about anywhere at all when it comes to best games of this year. Besides the funky fresh soundtrack, you've got hilarious and
It does have an
interesting
incredible
gameplay.
soundtrack. My
Oh,
God.
yes.
This
Just
This
the
game is
tinting of the
bumping.
purple and maroon tinting choices. Like, there's so many things
everything
that are
of
just a little off, but wonderful.
and it is a
The fact that they
4 hour
even
JRPG.
thought that JRPG was the right approach for 15th century Slovakian drunkenness, just it's just beautiful.
First
I just
person JRPG, though. It's a first
100%.
yeah.
person JRPG.
Which you know, because every time you try to drink something, it comes just filling the camera with a beer barrel
Uh-huh, or sour cream.
or sour
Not
cream. Oh,
not what we know it to be today, but something very different 600 years
uh,
ago. Yeah,
we applaud you for your weirdness, but we more applaud you for somehow doing a short JRPG. Thank
yeah.
you, Velvedick.
Truly a standout game for me this year. Like joking aside, like I'm so glad that we played this game. This is another Discord recommendation, and it's in my favorite games of this year. And yeah, I'm glad we could honor it with
Same.
this
I thought it
with
was
this
rad.
award. Yeah,
It's one of those games that like I was traveling the week that you guys planned to play this, and I like looked at this game and kind of gave it the sniff test and was like, I mean, I'm gonna travel. Uh, I'll see you later. And I wasn't on this episode, and then you guys absolutely loved it, and the episode was so fun to listen to, and I felt so bad that I hadn't played it. So I'm actually halfway through it right now. It's kind of like
nice.
it was the first thing I installed on my new Steam Deck, and I've gotten waylaid by some other stuff, but like I'm very often when I'm not on an episode for something, I just sort of give it a pass because either there was a reason I skipped that episode or time marches on. But here we are at the end
Sure.
of the year. I am playing this game and I am really liking it. So thank you,
You
Nate, for
gotta see it all
letting
the
me
way
do that.
through. You
Will
gotta see it
do.
all the way through. It only gets
I got a little stuck because I'm at the part where they finally go into the brothel and talk to those folks, and then I'm
Mhm.
investigating something. I'm a little lost in terms of plot, and it's not like there's a lot of like walkthroughs out there. So I think I need to hit you up for like to
Yeah.
get
There's
unstuck.
there's only so many play it's like the nice thing about that game too, because it is so short. There's only so many places you can go. So I've
Yeah,
generally found just like check the 5 main points of
yeah,
interest
Yeah.
and the thing will be there.
I just want to shout out the thing that I liked the best about that game, which is the absolutely cursed, angry but weirdly sad expression on Pavel's face in all of his close-up art. It's
It's all
just
so good.
it's
It's
just
all
so
so
good.
good.
There's so much character in this game. Like they use like 3 colors and like somehow this game manages to be one of the best looking games I've ever seen.
It's
Banner.
distinctive game for best looking.
Yes.
If you look at the screenshots, you're gonna say, "What is Shane thinking?" It's got intention.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the Lord of the Manor or whatever that is dealing with a whole host of strange major problems, but at the end of the day all he wants to do is just play board games, and I've
Yeah.
never related more closely to a character in gaming.
Don't go on the mission. Play chess with me.
Yeah, like we
Mhm.
could deal with this cult behavior and the murders and the mystery and all that, but I got this new game and I really want to play it, so can we just do that
Yeah.
instead?
The Hussites are attacking, but I mean, do you want to beat me at chess again?
Yeah. I just learned about this new board game called The Gang that I just ordered on Amazon, and I need to play that with my friends. So I can't deal with, uh, you know,
Coming soon
Kids
to a
are
podcast.
Yep. Let me know how that goes, Nate. So another award that we've given, many times over the years, just the reality of this podcast is that we can't always play everything good and interesting in short games on, day and date with its release, and things often kind of slip by us.
Yep.
And so very often we end up playing games that we truly love a year late, which makes them kind of ineligible for game of the year. We don't really want to give game of the year to a game that came out last year. You know what I mean? But sometimes those games are that we end up playing are just so phenomenal that we need some place to stick them in our awards. And here is that place. We've given this various names over the years. The one that I believe we kind of originated this award for a short hike, which I played, but I was the only one. Well, maybe no, maybe that wasn't this, but yeah, I played that, and I was the only one on the podcast who had played it in the year that it came out, and we never
Tux
did an
and
episode on
Fanny
it.
was one that we just got to
Yes,
a year or
yeah,
two
Tux and
late.
Fanny, incredible game. This year it was El Paso Elsewhere. El Paso Elsewhere, it was an absolute incredible game. I fell into a fugue state playing this game and didn't like move from my like Steam Deck until I had completed it. This is from Strange Scaffold. It's one of the 3 Strange Scaffold games that we played this year, and it's my favorite of the 3, and probably my favorite of their entire output. And absolutely banger game. It has it somehow combines the like retro like level based like just go on to the next level and shoot a bunch of dudes boomer shooter vibes of like early or some late 90s like PC shoot 'em ups along with the third person camera and certain other elements of things like the Max Payne series, along with a game narrative that pulled you through it that was absolutely riveting despite being extremely genre inflected. So this is a game about going through 100, I think, I forget, levels of a mysterious motel full of retro aesthetic monsters, uh, interspersed with scenes where you're here to confront your ex-girlfriend Dracula and probably kill her. And somehow that goofy genre inflected setup with inspirations from all over the place managed to be both incredibly compelling from a gameplay perspective. I found this incredibly just like fun to play, and also really interesting narrative. So interesting that they've apparently sold the rights to and are in the process of working on a movie based on this, which I think is a great idea because it's a great story. It was really well performed, really well done. All it's rare that a game that tells its story almost exclusively via cutscenes is so involving on from a narrative perspective, but like this totally did. So
Yeah,
great game.
Lakeith Stanfield is the one
Yeah.
is one of, I think he either bought the rights or is a part of the group that bought the rights to make
Yeah,
the
it
movie.
is
Taste is
apparently going
so
to play the
good.
lead. So good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so glad that this got made, and I'm so glad that Jalabir Nelson Jr. and Strange Scaffold seem to be just like knocking them out of the park. And like,
Yeah.
I don't know what they are smoking over there that they are managing to put out what they're putting out. It's incredible, but
90s Stephen King levels of productivity.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
I don't know how that was happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're
Yeah,
doing
I
incredible work.
loved the game as well. And it
Yeah.
also makes me excited. I am hopeful for an El Paso elsewhere. What is it? El Paso Elsewhere. No movie, a second game. Oh my god, what a stumble. I'm really looking forward to hopefully a second version of this game because the mechanics were a lot of fun and I want more of it, and I want it to be more refined and like more of the slow-mo zombie or vampire killing. Like I just want more of this game. So I hope they haven't really done like sequels yet, I don't think. So we'll see if they do. But since this is getting a movie made out of it, I assume it might be a franchise they want to run with and maybe make another one.
I
My
think
list.
that's it for our official awards, but we did have some games that we just didn't want to end the episode without talking about. So honorable mentions, these are things that we highlighted and said, we have to talk about them in this episode or we will feel, one or all of us will personally feel bad.
Yeah, I'll
So
go
please
first
don't
on
let us be
this.
guilty.
I've talked a lot about this game. I think this would also be late to the party eligible. This came out right near the end of 2023. Cobalt Core. Just this game has found its way deep into my heart. As I've talked a fair bit, I've traveled a lot more in the last year than I kind of ever have in my life. And this has been a game that I've just been sort of chipping away over and over while I'm on planes and in airports. And these little guys are my friends, and we're getting through this time loop together. And I really love it. The more I got into it, like the gameplay is good, and you can really it's easy enough that I have found the fun is actually in just trying. Like you don't have to min max to win in that game. And it took me a while to figure it out, because a lot of these games like this, deck building roguelikes, we've just spent a lot of time. If you want to win, you actually have to be like perfect. If to ace it, or you're going to get crushed. This game is far more forgiving than that, and you can actually try things out. Be like, well, what if I mix up these two weapons together? What if I mix these two character types together? It doesn't seem like it would mix. You can make it work. You can make most of the stuff work if you think about it and you play well. And I've been really enjoying that. And then the story is cute, and I love all the little guys, and just the way the game drips out the story to you and you figure out what's happening, this mystery that you're sort of unpacking. I really love this game. And if we had played this in 2023, it might have been my game of the year of 2023. And I'm still playing it. So I hope everyone else checks it out more.
This one really got me too. I played it for, I sometimes I play things after the podcast, but usually it's to finish it. And in games that are unfinishable, this was one that I kept playing after, even though there is an ending, but it was far away at the point we hit record. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it.
It's funny. I actually have. I almost never do this. Normally, for games that we play on the show, or just games in general, once I get to the end, I'm like, all right, let me just finish it and move on. But I have to win one more round to finish the game, and I have just been kind of dragging my feet on it. I'm like, I don't want it to be over. But I'm gonna finish it here soon. I had I had a 17-hour flight earlier this
Oof.
year, and I played Cobalt Core for like 5 hours of that flight, and I had like a really strange sense memory thing where I was home playing it, and I just had this like weird, almost out of body, like I felt like I was on a plane again playing this game. I like connected it so much with playing on planes. So I don't know, this part of, I think just changing altitude a lot, messes with you. And I've been playing this game and all this travel and whatnot, and it's been really, really nice. It's a good game for that for me.
I will also bring up a game that I haven't revisited since, but for a very good reason. And that is The Root Trees Are Dead, which I had a lovely time streaming, sort of, with Reagan. um, it was a
Thank
mystery
you
where
again, Laura, for carrying me through yet another what's the word for this? Mystery deduction game. Like
I love it. It's really nice to have a second person. Not just for logical leaps, but having two pairs of eyes on stuff to notice details is really helpful. But I think we might have talked about this more if Root Trees Are Dead was not getting a remaster of sorts coming out in the next year or two, where they're going to redo all the art. So I'm really looking forward to either re-releasing our episode or re-recording, depending on how we're feeling. Um, I think it's a really inventive deduction game with a lot going for it, and a lot more people are going to see it once the AI art is replaced with uh, proper illustration. So, Root Trees Are Dead, solid as a rock game, but I'm not recommending you play it now. I'm recommending you put it on your pre-order list and buy it when it comes out for real.
Yeah, incredible game.
Really solid.
But yeah, like Laura was saying, and not just the fact that it had AI art, it was also like the way in which it was released. It was released for free on
Mhm.
itch.io, but as a browser only game, and it's probably the meatiest thing I would have ever attempted to play in a browser. I felt
Terrifying.
nervous
Yeah.
terrified to play this game exclusively in a browser. We played There was a downloadable exe version of the game, but for various reasons the only way that you could get that would be to join the Discord of the developer and personally ask and be sent it. So it's like one of these things where it's like, well, we really wanted to recommend this game to more people, but there were like all these little caveats in the way. Um, I'm really glad that it's getting what's sure to be a much more mainstream release with like proper illustrations, and because it's a game that's
And we
brilliantly
can
designed.
download and pay for it.
Yeah, a game that you can buy and play and pay for it like a normal game. So can't wait for more people to experience that. And I really, really recommend keeping an eye out for it in 2025. Something to look forward to.
Mhm.
And let's see. I had a couple of honorable mentions on here that we didn't quite find a place to put. Animal Well was one of my games of the year for sure. Definitely the best Metroidvania I played this year, despite being combat free. It's just such a unique game. So cool.
Fantastic.
Incredible
Beautiful.
game. Beautiful. Tiny is a game that was like 8 megabytes or something like that as a download. Just I kind of
Which
love
is
that
just
about
so
it.
good.
And
That
full of wild
guarantees that I will
mystery.
never delete it from my Steam Deck.
Hmm. And it's just one of it's really an incredible, wonderful game, and I really enjoyed doing it. Really enjoyed the episode on it. It's also a game that I have not truly finished because this game was arguably short in that you can roll credits on it. It is a very short Metroidvania, and then another very long Metroidvania. Strange scenario with it, but if you like short Metroidvanias, it can be that for you, and you can stop when you roll credits. And if instead, then you want to do an extensive comb through a very massive mystery, that's there too. So I think it's a cool game in that it kind of meets people where they are in that way, and it's just full of mystery and cool stuff. Um,
Yeah. This was a game. Shane said something similar earlier about Indica. When we were playing Animal Well and getting ready to record on it, I had a feeling I was like, this might be the short game of the year. Now it does have that layered thing, and you could argue whether it is or is not a short game, but like this is a crazy masterpiece and a solo dev also, which we love on this show. This whole thing made by one person. So a really incredible experience that I'm still picking away at. I don't think I'll probably ever get all the way through it, but I love a good little platformer Metroidvania
mhm.
exploration game like this. And I also, while we were prepping for this episode, pitched it as best art design because
I could see that. Yeah.
I think that is one of the things that is going to be the most lasting from this game. It's just
Ooh, I want to boot this up on my new OLED Steam Deck.
shut
This is one
up,
that I
Reagan.
know, but I really want to now.
You know how that makes
Um,
me feel.
yeah, that's my job. I'm the FOMO fairy. You're welcome.
Well, it's already gone. I already missed out, so I don't even have fear of missing out. I am actively missing out. Thank you.
Mhm.
So, in addition to actively missing out, you have to do the segue to the final honorable mission. That's your punishment for missing out. Double down.
All right. So I don't like horror. I don't like it's not my thing. I don't like seeing people in extreme distress and blood and gore and stuff like that. I have, however, despite that, I've been a part of a horror movie club now for like 2 years. So I'm getting more into the genre. I'm trying to understand it a lot more. And every once in a while, Reagan makes me play a horror video game. And sometimes I have a great time with it. Sometimes I don't. This one I really found myself enjoying. Didn't connect with all of it because I just reject some of the entire concepts around horror, but I ultimately completed and really enjoyed playing Mouthwashing. This is the
Mhm.
type of horror that I can get into, and I'm really glad that I played this game.
I adore horror. I can't believe that I unfortunately missed out on mouthwashing with you guys.
I forgot that you missed out on that. This was one that if you have some time over the holidays and you're looking for something to do and your kid is not
Something
around,
light.
Really Christmassy, huh? Yeah.
yeah, then this
So
is definitely one to do.
as a mouthwash user, this game has impacted my life daily. I take the I do the little thing, and I just think like, how much of this would I have to drink to get drunk? And
Ugh.
Ugh.
what a horrible experience that would be. Uh, and that's like the fun part of that game is that they're using this mouthwash that way.
Yuck.
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a
Yeah,
real
they're
mess.
like, ooh, sugar. Sugar
Mm,
and alcohol. What could go wrong?
yeah.
Oof.
And mint. That is a truly distressing game, but also really cool in a lot of interesting ways. So, like, highly recommended. It did make a lot of folks' lists. I was pleased to see how
Yeah.
much
It-
attention mouthwashing got, and
it's
it got
it's a
well
cool
received.
story. It's well executed, and I even though my game of the year was technically in this genre too, I tend to reject the like walking simulator narrative first walking around game, and but when it hits, and this like tight space and the way the story was told, the writing, just everything about it really worked. And even when I was just like, oh god, I don't like that I'm sawing someone's leg off right now, or I'm shoving food into like a disemboweled corpse, and like I'm sure not having a good time doing this. The whole thing together ended up being a pretty good experience.
Yes. Yeah, and
What
just
a lot of
full of
mouth sound.
killer, like in a similar way to like Thousand Times Resist. It has just killer shots, like killer scenes. Like this
Yeah.
team just has a real sense of the visuals and a real sense of visual storytelling and of just
Too
like,
many mouth sounds, Reagan. Too many
yeah,
mouth sounds.
I'm with you. Well,
Oh,
listeners, thank you
this is a
very
wet
much for
game.
joining us on this episode and this year of the short game. It's been a great one. Thank you for supporting the show. If you're a patron, thank you double. We really, really love our patrons. But to everyone who's listened to this show or downloaded it on any platform, maybe left a review on any of those platforms, thank you. We appreciate you. It's been a good year for the show. Our numbers are continuing to slowly but steadily climb, which always makes me feel warm and cozy. Despite, we're doing this for ourselves. This is a fun thing for us to do as a group of friends, but it's also really rewarding that it means something to other folks as well. That folks occasionally leave us feedback or contact the show and tell us what games they're enjoying or that they liked an episode. It's a lot of warm fuzzies for me, so I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. It's all of that makes me keep doing this, despite the fact that the amount of time I have for gaming and for podcasting continues to shrink as my children continue to grow. But it's been continuing to work because of all of you. So thank you so much, and it's meant a lot to me this year.
We're gonna be missing like high school graduations because Strange Scaffolding has a new Power Ranger reboot that we just have to play.
Hey, you say that? Did you know the Power Ranger beat 'em up came out today? I can't wait
it's
to try
out.
that thing.
Yes.
It
Oh,
came
is
out
that
today.
no?
Yeah,
It looks like that
I
Ninja Turtles game that we liked so much.
I hope
except
that
with
I hope
Power
the
Rangers.
mechanics are decent.
Shredder's Revenge.
I can't wait to check that out. So yeah, and hey, look at this. We've got some people to play Power Rangers with because of this podcast. I love that.
Hey.
So listeners, thank you once again. If you'd like to support the show in 2025 and beyond, the best way to do that is with our Patreon. So you can find our show at shortgame.fm. There's all the links and buttons to all the different platforms there. Or you can just go to patreon.com/theshortgame. And there you'll find a way to support the show monetarily. Everyone who supports the show gets access to our Discord community, which is where we talk about the show and plan episodes and all that stuff. It's a great online hang. If you'd like to join us there, we would love to have you. And we love talking to our listeners about the games we're playing, what's upcoming on the show, short games that are coming out, but also just general life stuff. It's a good way to get the behind the scenes on things, and also just chat with other people who are interested in the same type of games that you are, it's a great place to do that. So we would love to have you. You can also find me on, all my socials are on shortgame.fm. I'm Reagan Kelly.
I'm Lauren Ash.
Nate Heininger.
And Shane Kelly.
And thank you once again for joining us on this great year of the Short Game.